Hey folks, Randy here with Doing Cut and Trim. So on a previous video, I told the story about how I financed the start of my business. It's like how I got the equipment, which was, I got a Fios gift card or a Visa gift card from Verizon Fios because we signed up with Fios, and I used that to buy the terrible equipment that I got my start in, or started my business with. And so when I started my business, I had taken that gift card. I bought a Ryobi 40-volt trimmer and a Ryobi 18-volt blower, and then I got a $40 push mower off of Craigslist, no self-propel. And that was my setup when I first started my business. And it was just, just to get me going because, I wanted to be able to say, like, if this isn't working out, I just want to be able to bail. So I never wanted to be in any debt. So I used that setup, and it was rough. The Ryobi 40-volt trimmer, the head, I didn't know how to work on equipment. I definitely didn't know how to switch out heads. I didn't even know you could do that. So on the Ryobi trimmer, the string actually only came out one side, and it had a button on it. So when the string got too low, you had to press the button, pull the string out, press the button, pull the string out. So that's how that thing worked. And the battery was only good for like 3 lawns before it needed to be charged. The Ryobi blower, the 18-volt blower, was horrible. Probably would have been easier to just use a broom in hindsight. And it sucked the life out of batteries. So I had a bunch of Ryobi batteries at the time, and it was like literally I would show up at somebody's property and I would find like an outdoor outlet that they had, and I would plug the battery charger in so that while I was mowing and trimming and all that, I could get some more juice into the batteries for the blower, because it just sucked the life out of those batteries. So that was what I started off with. And so my mowing season started in April. May rolled around, and I hadn't made much money, but I'd made enough money to get a new trimmer. So when those checks came in, I went to Home Depot and I bought an Echo SRM 225 string trimmer. And going from a Ryobi 40-volt trimmer to that Echo SRM 225, dude, that was amazing. I didn't know what power was. And so I used that. Then I went digging through my grandfather, I went digging through a shed used by my grandfather, and found his old blower in there. It was a Toro handheld blower, and it worked. And so I was like, well, I'm not using this stuff anymore. And so I started using his blower, and I pretty much immediately put the Ryobi trimmer and blower up for sale, because I was like, no, because like my thought process was I wanted to upgrade equipment, but slowly. And so, you buy the Echo SRM 225, that was like $220. Now it's time to sell the trimmer. So I think the trimmer and blower I was able to sell for like a combined, I don't know, $120 or something. So that way, like, I upgraded, but it only cost me like $100 to upgrade those 2 pieces of equipment. So it worked a while longer. Really felt like I needed a backpack blower. Didn't know anything about this stuff. Like, I didn't know what CFM was, or like, miles per hour versus CFM, and like, does it matter? And just like, I didn't know how any of this stuff worked. And I would ask actually on Facebook groups, and nobody was helpful. So I knew I wanted a backpack blower, because professionals, they get backpack blowers. And so I was on Craigslist, and I saw somebody was selling their backpack blower for $75. I was like, perfect. And so I went on, I asked him if it was still available, and so I went and bought a Poulon Pro backpack blower. It actually had the hip throttle, or whatever you call that. Which is a really weird design. I don't know why anybody would ever want to do that. I do not understand that design. I don't get it. But I used that for a while. It was hard to start. I didn't know how to work on stuff. Didn't even have an air filter on it. Somebody had taken the air filter cover off, so you couldn't even put an air filter on, even if you wanted to. It was hard to start, but whatever, it worked. In the meantime, I found a self-propelled push mower on Craigslist for $125. So I scooped that sucker up and sold the $40 original push mower. I sold that to a friend of mine for $50. So I actually made $10. Perfect. And so I used that self-propelled mower, which is funny. Like every time I would upgrade, I'd just be like, "Oh, this is amazing," you know, because like you go from a battery-operated trimmer to a gas trimmer, even one that's like like the SRM 225. It's like, oh, the power in my hands, and going from a push mower to a self-propelled push mower, it was like, where has this technology been? And so I used that for a while, and just kept checking Craigslist, because I was set with the trimmer. I didn't need to upgrade trimmers, and blowers. I felt like I was fine. And that's how I stayed for like pretty much the remainder of the season for those types of equipment. And so I was looking on the Craigslist, and I wish I could remember when this was. This was probably like late May. I see somebody's listed their Toro Time Master for $250. And I'm like, those are normally $1,000. Looks good to me. So I contacted the guy, and he was like, yeah, come on, take a look at it. So I go over there. It's running. It's battery. It's electric start, which is pretty cool. And the guy tells me it has a blown head gasket. And I'm like, well, I don't know what that means, but it runs, so we're good. It's funny now. If somebody told me that something that had blown head gasket, I'd be like, but I don't know. And honestly, I don't think that guy knew what he was talking about, because I used that mower a lot and I never had a single problem with it. Excuse me. So once I had that, I now had, what you should have, which is a backup mower. So the Toro Time Master was my primary mower, and I had the self-propelled mower as a backup. And then, I also had the two blowers. So I had, the Toro handheld blower, and then I had the Pull-On Pro backpack. So I only had the one trimmer, though. So I was like, well, that needs to be fixed. And so I actually went to Home Depot again, and because I wanted to start getting like attachment tools, and or like a combi system or pass system, whatever. And but I didn't want to spend all that money. So I got the Toro Power Head and the trimmer to go along with it. And man, I tell you what, the Toro Power Head is great. It's an indestructible tool. It's kind of like, remember back in the day, like those brick phones? They were pretty much impossible to break. You could throw it across the room and hit the ground. My friends of mine, we used to like throw this is a dumb story, but we used to throw our phones at each other and hit each other with them. Phones were always fine. They're just like those Nokia brick phones. You just couldn't break them. And Toro trimmer is like that. You can leave it out in the rain. You can soak it in a bucket of water. Just let it dry out. It'll start on like the third or fourth pull. It's just an indestructible machine. I don't know what they did to it, but you can't kill them. And so I actually ended up giving that one to my cousin down the line. So I went and bought that. So this way I had two of everything. So I kept going about my business. Now I got a 30-inch Toro Time Master and a 21-inch backup. And then I see somebody's listed a Troy-built 33-inch mower for $350. It's the older style. It's not like the new style. The new style kind of looks like a commercial mower, and the older style looks weird. But I contact the guy, and he's like, yeah, come get it. So I go up there to buy it from him. He's telling me, like, it's got a whole new ignition system in it. And I'm like, okay, does it start? And he's like, yeah, that's all I care about. So he sells it to me for $350. And I end up, once I've got that, now I've got 3 mowers. I don't need 3 mowers. So I sell the 21-inch mower to somebody for the same amount that I got it. You know, it was like 120. I bought it for 125. I sold it for 125. Um, and so at this point, I had I guess a total of $600 invested in lawnmowers, and that's how I stayed for the rest of that 2015 season. I didn't upgrade anything. Now we were having financial issues because I was working for the state, wasn't making a lot of money, and so we were in a financially difficult time, and so I did what anybody would do in a financially difficult time. I went on Craigslist to look for mowers, and I found a 36-inch Toro Pro line. I believe it was in 1996. I believe that's what year it is, and the guy who was selling it said, it's just something weird with the clutch, doesn't always work. Again, I didn't know anything about mowers. He sells it to me for $350. I then immediately, and I don't know. Anyway, I regret this part, but financially I needed to do it, especially after I'd spent $350 on another mower. I listed the Toro Time Master and the Troy Built 33-inch. I listed them both on Craigslist, and I did like the strategy I always do with this kind of stuff, which is utilize the OBO, or best offer. So the Time Master I listed for $650, and the Troy Built I listed for $700, and the some guy contacted me on Craigslist and was like, I would like to Time Master. I'm not going to give you more than $550. Oh, dude, you drive a hard bargain. Okay. So I made $300 profit on the Time Master. And then somebody contacted me, the same kind of thing with the Troy Built. It's like, oh, you're asking $700? $600, I'll come get it right now. Like, dude, you're killing me. It's right before Christmas. I guess. So I made whatever that is, $300 on that. I ended up making a total of like $600 off these two mowers. And and then during that time, I actually also bought a Echo backpack. I want to say Echo, like a 580, I think is what it was. Does Echo make a 580? Because if they did, that's what I bought. I could do research on this right now, but why do that? So the next season rolls around. I don't buy anything else. Then I go full time, and I'm using that setup. Things are going great. I don't have a backup. I don't have a push mower at this point, and I try and buy a couple of them on Craigslist. Like I bought a Lawn Boy 2-cycle. That thing was garbage. I ended up selling that. I bought a Craftsman walk behind that died as soon as I got it. Bought a Lawn Boy again. Died as soon as I got it. I was just having bad luck on Craigslist. And I still didn't know how to work on stuff. And ended up buying just the cheapo Home Depot push mower. It was on sale for $140, and I actually still own that. And so that was my setup: 36-inch Toro Pro line, the $140 Home Depot mower, Toro blower, Toro trimmer, Echo blower. So go about my business, working, doing what I gotta do. And one of my neighbors contacts me. He was like, hey, he's like a flea market guy. I just realized both my feet are asleep right now. Oh, the tingles are gonna be so bad. Oh God, yeah, that's gonna be bad. Let's see if we can wake up the right foot while we're doing this. He shows me this blower, and it's like a BR 350. And so he starts it up, and that sucker ran so rough. It was brutal, and it was like weather beaten. You could tell it just been left outside, kind of like most of my equipment. And I was like, well, how much you want for it? And he was like, $75. That's actually a great impression of him. $75. So, man, I nailed that. I wish you guys knew who he was so you could appreciate that more. And so I was like, okay, fine, whatever. Won't hurt to have more equipment. And I put it in the backyard, don't think about it. And then 6 weeks into the season, I go out, hop in my truck, drive to the first lawn. I get out and I look, and all my handheld stuff is gone. The Well, actually, the handheld blower wasn't gone. I guess they thought Toro blowers, that's so crappy, we don't want that. But although it was a great blower, the thieves actually missed out on that one. But they stole my Echo backpack, my Toro trimmer, and my Echo trimmer. And I was like panicking because this was still early in the season. I was still small. I didn't know what I was doing. We were just barely making it. And so I had $220. That's all the money I had. All those tingles are bad. Oof, when your foot wakes up. That was all I had. So I called Nick from Mulchmate. He was running his own business at the time. And I was like, dude, all my stuff got stolen. So I got a backpack blower, but I need to go buy a trimmer. I was thinking about making the move to steel because he was a steel guy. And I was like, do you have any suggestions? Is their $200 trimmer worth it? And he was like, let me think about it. And he was like, tell you what, I get a good deal at my dealer. I'll pick you up a trimmer and just come meet me later. And I was like, okay. And so later on that day, he gives me a shout. I was like, hey, come on by. And so I drive to his house, and he hands me a FS90R. And I'm looking at this thing. I'm like, dude, I told you I only had $200. I know this is like a $350 machine. And he was like, honestly, I don't remember all he said, but it's something along the lines of like, I see you're working hard and it sucks that happened to you. Don't worry about it. It's for you. Get back to work. And that really meant a lot to me. Yeah, it did. And so then I had that. I had that backpack, the BR350 that my neighbor had sold me. So I go back and I'm like, oh, see if this thing will start. And I kind of clean it off and discover it's not a BR350. It's actually a BR550. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. So now I'm rocking a FS90R and a BR550. So it's actually pretty ironic that I got all my equipment stolen, and it cost me nothing to all of a sudden have a much, much better setup. It's amazing how that worked out. So I ran with that for the rest of the year, and then the next year I bought a Toro Proline 52-inch. With the full intention of using it a lot, and I did, but then the engine blew up. And I could have replaced the engine, but honestly, a lot of the parts for the 52 worked on the 36. It ended up becoming a parts machine, and just kind of sitting. And then when I had just harvested everything I could possibly harvest from it, actually one of the subscribers on this YouTube channel, I ended up giving it. Well, he wouldn't take it. I just wanted to get it out of my yard, but he wouldn't take it as a gift. He ended up swapping it for a couple things. So I had that. But I stuck with the 36-inch Toro Proline. Had to do a lot of repairs. The reason I know how to work on mowers is because of that machine. And I think it was towards the end of 2018. 18? Yeah. Towards the end of 2018, I went out and bought a brand new Toro Time Master. Didn't get one with the battery. Didn't need it. Sometimes I wish I had it just because it would be convenient, but it doesn't really matter. And so, stuck with that. I had a bunch of push mowers that didn't work at this point. And so I actually did buy a Predator engine from Harbor Freight and put it on one of those decks. Mostly just because I wanted to learn how to do it. The mower never worked particularly well because, it needed new belts and whatever. I didn't want to spend any more money on it, and I wasn't using it. So I still have that, but it's been sitting for a long time. And then at some point, my FS90R died, and I replaced that with a combi. It was a KM91R, KM90R, something like that. And that's what I've been using now. It's a good machine. That thing's powerful. Oh, and eventually the Toro handheld did die, and I replaced it with a BG50, which actually is a surprisingly good handheld blower, and I've been using that. I love how that thing hardly uses any fuel at all. I used to do videos updating folks on the fact that this this blower was basically free because it used so little fuel. It used to drive people crazy. Get so annoyed by it. But yeah, I mean, that brings us to where we are now. I still, as we speak right now, I've got the Toro 36-inch Pro line. I've got the 30-inch Time Master, the Combi 91R. Can't remember what it is, and the BG50 and the BR550, and that's what I'm running. My intention is to retire the Toro Pro line this year, and my intention is to replace it with a Bradley machine, either walk behind or stander. I keep going back and forth. I feel like walk behind would be better for my area, for like the type of properties that I do. I feel like a walk behind machine would be better than a stand on machine. However, I feel like a stander would be a better four-season machine compared to the walk behind. But, we'll see. I'll change my mind about what I'm going to get probably at least 12 more times before I actually buy it. So, but I just wanted to go through that. I've always felt like it was kind of interesting to hear people's equipment progressions. And, who knows? Maybe I'll actually put pictures of equipment on here and see what happens. I mean, I do have some like some machines that I bought but never used. I bought it was like an 89 36-inch mower from like the 80s. I don't even know. I think it might have been Bunton or something. I got that for $150, but it had no safety features on it, and it scared me. So I ended up selling that thing. I bought at some point I bought a Snapper Zero Turn for $300, and turned around and sold it because it couldn't stay on a hill, and it was a horrible purchase. It was like a joystick control. It wasn't zero turn like that. It was a joystick. It was weird. And then actually I bought a Snapper 36-inch, a Snapper 26-inch push mower. That thing was actually pretty cool. It was way too complicated to work on, so I ended up selling that at the beginning of the season. I think I used it on 2 lawns. But yeah, that's a rundown of the equipment that I've used and owned starting in 2015 up to January of 2020, or February 2020. Goodness. So it was Randy with Dual and Cut and Trim. I hope this was interesting. I hope it was helpful to you. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a good one.